Welcome to Policy Wire. Today we're discussing an important issue: how the BBC portrays Pakistan. Over a period of time, the broadcaster has shifted away from impartial reporting and leaned into selective criticism of Pakistan. Despite significant progress in governance, diplomacy, infrastructure, and institutional reforms, the BBC continues to paint Pakistan with outdated stereotypes of chaos and instability. An analysis of over 735 BBC articles reveals a troubling editorial pattern. While the BBC labels 78% of its content as objective, the tone and framing tell a very different story. Pakistan is depicted as a nation on the brink of collapse, ignoring the country's positive transformations, economic stabilization, stronger foreign relations, and unprecedented digital reforms. None of these key developments find meaningful space in the BBC's coverage. Instead, the BBC focuses on political dissent, security incidents, and criticisms of the state. While critical journalism is important, this selective coverage distorts the reality of a nation braving complex challenges, including foreign-backed insurgencies and hybrid warfare. Take Balochistan, for example. Despite its rich cultural heritage and ongoing local development efforts, the BBC consistently frames it as a conflict zone. Stories about bombings, disappearances, and protests dominate the narrative, while positive aspects such as infrastructure projects, reconciliation efforts, and counter-insurgency measures go largely unreported. The BBC has chosen to ignore the complexities of Balochistan, opting instead for a narrative that aligns with a geopolitical agenda aimed at exacerbating negativity. Similarly, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is depicted by the BBC as a violent region filled with sectarian clashes and unrest. But reporting of positive developments of efforts to reduce violence and bring about normalcy are either buried or omitted. The BBC's coverage feeds into a narrative of failure, ignoring Pakistan's effort to promote peace, stability, and resilience. Perhaps the most glaring bias appears in the coverage of Pakistan's civil-military relations and political landscape. The BBC fixates on Imran Khan's political trials, military courts, and security crackdowns, often with an accusatory tone. What's missing? The BBC neglects to report on significant national reforms, electoral transparency, or civilian-led legal processes. Instead of presenting a balanced view, the broadcaster consistently portrays the state as oppressive and dysfunctional. The editorial pattern isn't accidental. It mirrors the BBC's past treatment of rising powers like China, where they focus on authoritarianism, repression, and threat narratives. In Pakistan's case, it reflects a Cold War-era security obsession, devoid of cultural understanding, and aligns with strategic narratives pushed by Western intelligence agencies like MI5, MI6, and India's RAW. The BBC's language is another critical issue. Groups like the Baloch Liberation Army are rarely labeled as terrorist organizations, despite being a UN-designated terrorist organization. Instead, they are given neutral coverage, their motives explored in detail, while Pakistan's security forces are painted as aggressors. This angling not only misleads the audience, but also gives militants a degree of legitimacy by framing their actions in a more sympathetic light. What's even more concerning is the lack of coverage for Pakistan's achievements. Where is the recognition for its climate resilience efforts, digital governance reforms, positivity and resilience of its people, the immense beauty of its landscape, and the vibrant, forward-looking society? These and a number of positive events of the country barely make a dent in the BBC's narrative. The message is clear. Pakistan is to be portrayed not as a nation on the rise, but as a cautionary tale. A year-long review reveals a disturbing trend in the BBC's reporting. One driven by bias and a clear ideological agenda. Instead of reflecting the realities of Pakistan's progress, the BBC's coverage undermines the country's image, serving foreign strategic interests and weakening diplomatic ties. Pakistan continues to navigate immense challenges with resilience, but the BBC's skewed lens distorts this journey. By focusing on conflict and instability while neglecting Pakistan's successes, the BBC forsakes fair journalism, opting instead for narrative manipulation. But despite this, Pakistan's steady progress remains undeniable. The nation is committed to a prosperous future, and no amount of biased reporting can change that. Stay tuned for more updates. Thank you.